Welcome back to Business for Breakfast.
43 minutes after the hour here on Money Radio 1200. I'm Jeffrey O'Brien.
I'm Ellie Tourget. The Dow is down 119, sitting at 16,341. The NASDAQ up 2 at 4,200. Yay.
Some sort of good news on this, we'll just call it a market correction morning.
Sure.
Crude oil is holding steady at $94 a barrel. Gold is up $1. And corn is down 6 again. And silver is at $19.89 an ounce. All right. This is I think, very relevant and very important conversation we're about to have with Mr. Kaine Fisher. He's from the Rose Law Group in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we're going to talk about how to protect a family business in the event of a divorce, death, or a new marriage. There's certain steps that you'll have to take in that event as well. Good morning, Kaine. How you doing?
Good morning, Jeffrey. How you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
Great. Now, this is kind of a fascinating conversation because even if someone is not in a divorce or somebody hasn't had a family member die and there's a business at stake, it does sort of linger in your head that there's a possibility of something that could happen in the future. So I'm really interested in what you have to say about this. So divorce is the common denominator for collapsing businesses, both big and small. What planning can be done to prevent these disasters in an unfortunate event of a divorce?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the most crucial thing in dealing with this issue is to plan ahead. And, you know, that sounds pretty obvious, but you wouldn't believe, Jeff, how many folks don't do this. Arizona is a community property state, which basically means that any income or property acquired during the marriage is community. In other words, both spouses have a share in that property in some form or fashion. So knowing that, you know, you and your spouse share in the pie, and knowing that divorce is a pretty common denominator for business failures, I mean, it would be imperative to take action and be prepared. Now, what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, we're talking about prenuptial agreements, shareholder agreements, buy-sell agreements. All of these in some degree address or can address what happens in the event of a divorce. And, you know, the interesting thing about it is it's important to do it when everybody's happy.
Right.
And when everybody has the common goal of making sure that that business is solvent. In the event of divorce, there's sabotage and all sorts of other emotional dynamics that come into play. But, you know, when you're getting the business off the ground, you know, which, by the way, is hard enough. It's hard enough when you have two people on the same page getting a business to take off, let alone trying to keep it afloat in the midst of a pending divorce. So, you know, with that said, I mean, do it when everybody's happy, when everybody's on the same page. And if you don't, you wish you did, and you can certainly expect a long, drawn-out legal battle. Again, these agreements that I talked about before, they kind of lay out what's going to happen. You know, and the statistics show that a business is likely to fail if these things aren't put in place before a divorce.
That's only smart, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Jeffrey, a lot of people, I mean, they really want to be positive. Nobody wants to go into marriage thinking divorce. So that, you know, that probably takes away from a lot of people's planning. But yet there's also the unfortunate and untimely death of maybe the business owner or someone in the family as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the specific nature of the life-changing circumstance, obviously, death of a family member, spouse, and a divorce is, you know, I guess, clearly different. But you know, those events pretty much have the same impact on the success of a business. That's why, you know, just as we talked about the buy-sell agreements, the prenups, an estate planning is crucial. So, you know, I don't practice in that area, but I associate with some very qualified folks that do, and I always tell my clients, you know, hey, look, go talk to an estate planner if you're going to start a business, and if you're thinking about getting married and doing a prenup, you need to plan for all of these things, because, you know, having a successful business not only helps you during the marriage in terms of family support and so on, but it could also, you know, keep you afloat after the divorce, especially if you're not the breadwinner of the family or have not played a real significant, crucial role in the running of the business.
So planning
you have to take
ahead,
care of kids.
Right? Planning ahead, and it for any circumstance is important. And I think that one way I'm sure Kaine would see it as well is when everybody's happy to say, listen, this isn't about whether we're going to fail or that I'm planning on dying. This is about making sure that everyone is protected in any circumstance. But my question for you, Kaine, is what gets uglier? Is it uglier on the divorce end, or is it uglier with the family members fighting over the last crumbs left behind by the dearly departed?
Well, from my experience, both are driven by some form of greed or animosity. I mean, if you think about it, when spouses get along, they don't get divorced. And when families get along when they're alive, they typically tend to get along when someone passes away, unless you have some, form of animosity or greed. And, again, like I said, overall it's about the same dynamic, which is why I find myself, picking up a couple of those cases now and again. I pick up some of those heavily contested, highly litigious probate matters because the nuts and bolts are the same. It's the same dynamic, the same family issues, the same kind of attitude that I need to take to effectively represent my clients.
Right. Now, we only have about a minute left. So what is the best way to approach valuing a business for purposes of division or allocation?
Well, I mean, in every divorce, if this stuff hasn't been dealt with in other legal documents, you got to get the business valued. Unless there's a stipulated agreement or a clear mutual understanding of what the business is worth, you've got to get it valued. And you got to know what we're talking about here. You got to know what the business is worth in terms for purposes of settlement and for purposes of litigation. And us lawyers aren't qualified to do that. We have to hire an expert. It's got to be some competent, qualified business valuator to do this. Now, I need to tell everybody it's expensive. Mm-hmm. I mean, these evaluations exceed $10,000 on the smaller side, and for bigger businesses, over $25,000 at times. And I guess the best nugget I can give people out there is it's going to benefit you if you sit down with your spouse through counsel,
right,
and agree upon one expert.
Sounds like a plan.
That's all the time we have. So
okay.
Good planning at the beginning makes it easier at the end. That's Kaine Fisher from the Rose Law Group in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
More Business for Breakfast coming up right after this. You've got Money Radio 1200.